Devlin, Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
Welcome to the podcast, people. Martin Devlin, Lachlan Moore. This is the highlights show of It's Only Sport iOS. We go live on the platform, 1 till 4, Monday through Friday. You can download the app and listen to the show, all 3 hours of it. Or next best thing, if you can't join us then, well, this is the highlights package of. Normally on a Monday, we have the Rugby League Hour. However, Kempy, a bit sidelined today. So many members of his staff stricken with COVID couldn't join us. So, did a bit of a rejig for you. He will still join us, as he always does. As well as that, Justin Marshall talking Super Rugby. Cracking round it was, and so much to play for. Permutations and commutations all over the fixture list coming into this final round. Andy Buckley, a couple of massive games at Wembley over the last 24 hours, including the FA Cup final and the single richest game in world sport, and that is the championship final between Southampton and Leeds. And, of course, the Indy 500. Wow, what a finish. Yeah, disappointing as all hell for Scott McLaughlin and Scott Dixon. But Josef Newgarden did exactly what he did last year. You didn't think lightning could strike twice in the same place? Well, he did. 2 brilliant passing manoeuvres to win back-to-back titles. We begin the show the same way every day. I say, tablets in hand, gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. Winners and losers from the weekend sport. Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Winners and losers from the weekend in no particular order. Winner, Hurricanes. Fantastic match Friday night. Well, apart from the rules and the reffing, I'll get on to that in about 20 minutes or so. Tough place to go and win. Canes took care of business and easily could now go on and win it all. Loser, the rules. Rugby is just killing itself. Red cards, match-winning penalties, also confusing and unconvincing. The game is great. The rules are an ass. Winner, who would have thought? The Crusaders. They beat the competition's #1 team. Best performance of the year for the Red and Blacks. Can I say it was a sea of a result for Auckland and all their fans? Winner, Rob Penny. Maybe he should call the media that word after every single press conference. Fair play to the guy. Backs to the wall. And his team believed in him and produced a performance that could well qualify them for the playoffs. And if that's the case, they might actually get to play Auckland again in that quarter-final. And I wonder what words were said behind closed doors after the win. Winner, the Panthers. Welcome back, the 3-time champs. Just absolutely thrashing the top of the table. Sharks, still the team to beat, clearly, if you want to win the NRL. Loser. Well, there's a few of them. The Storm. What the hell happened to them? Losing to Manly. You had the Raiders to that, shipping 44 points to the Roosters, had the Broncos, had the Eels. But Ricky Stewart's side are the ultimate Jekyll and Hyde. Winner, Man United beat Man City for the FA Cup final, and deservedly so. Fantastic way to finish the season for United fans. Stop City from doing the double. It means that Chelsea go down to the European Conference League. Newcastle miss out altogether. Probably the best that we have played all year and saved it for the one match that mattered most. But the question is, where the hell was that performance for the rest of the year? Loser, Eric Ten Hag, though. Despite all that, the manager looks as though he's going to get shot. All the reports saying that his days are numbered. Win, lose that final. Regardless of the result, he looks as though he's gone. Winner, of course, the Warriors. Wow. And what a win it was against all the odds. 10 or more players out, injured, absent, behind on the scoreboard. Again, just sheer guts, will, commitment. The Warriors are still in it. Winner, Mitch Barnett. Origin call-up, thoroughly deserved. He's been the most consistent Warriors player and the best player all season. Loser, the Indiana Pacers, up 18 points at home, unbeaten at home in the playoffs. They lose to Boston, Game 3, now down 0-3. No NBA team has ever come back from that deficit in any finals series. And you could probably add the Timberwolves too. I mean, if they can win today, they keep it alive against Dallas, but after dropping both openers at home. Finally, winner, Josef Newgarden, back-to-back Indy titles. Incredible. First time in 22 years that has happened, with another audacious last lap passing move just like last year. And loser, well, you've had a fantastic day out, but I bet all of those 300,000 people on track trying to get out now after the race finish. You imagine that traffic jam, 300,000 people trying to get out of the place. It's like moving Woodstock up Queen Street. So much patience required. Best day out until you actually have to go home.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The platform.
Quick news headlines and then straight to Justin Marshall. We'll go, Lock.
Oh, geez, there's a lot going on. Don't know where to start. I'll start off with the IndyCar. A really exhilarating, exciting race on today, finishing just before, I think, midday it was in the end. Josef Newgarden becoming the first back-to-back winner of the Indianapolis 500 since Helio Castroneves 22 years ago, giving Roger Penske a record-extending 20th win in what is widely dubbed the greatest spectacle in racing. Two Kiwis finishing in the top 10, being Scott Dixon and Scott McLaughlin. Of course, Scott McLaughlin had pole position for the race. Other motorsport, Formula One overnight. Charles Leclerc from Ferrari celebrating a boyhood dream, no doubt coming true for him, as he was the first home winner of Formula One's Showcase Monaco Grand Prix in 93 years. Leclerc trimming the championship lead for Max Verstappen. It's down to 31 points with Verstappen still on top of the point standings. Leclerc just behind him. Verstappen ended up finishing 6th in the race. Former All Blacks lock Ross Filippo has been appointed the Māori All Blacks coach against Japan, a Japanese 15, should I say, which is in June next month, taking over from Chiefs boss Clayton McMillan. Filippo was part of the Māori team that defeated the touring British and Irish Lions for the first time in 2005, by the way. Up in Japan, in case you missed it, former All Black Richie Mo'unga has continued a stunning domestic winning streak after being part of the Toshiba side, which beat the Wild Knights in the Japan Rugby League 1 final last night. A strong Toshiba lineup, which is coached by former Crusader player and coach Todd Blackadder. It includes All Black loose forward Shannon Frizzell, the captain being, Japanese captain Michael Leach, also on the team, of course, a Kiwi as well as sort of a Japanese native. They beat the Robbie Deans coached Wild Knights 24-20. EFL Championship this morning, the playoff was on for the final spot to be promoted to the Premier League for next year. Leeds up against Southampton. Leeds finished higher on the table than Southampton during the season, only by 3 points in the end. They were third, Southampton were fourth. Didn't matter though, Southampton winning today 1-0. And for what it's worth, they actually played on the final match day of the season. Southampton won that one 2-1, so maybe that was a sign of things to come for this match. Southampton winning 1-0, so they're the final team to be promoted. They joined Leicester City, who won the EFL Championship. Ipswich Town were the second promoted side, Southampton, the final one. So 2 of the 3 teams that were relegated last season will be back in the Premier League for next season, if that makes sense. NRL, I'll quickly run through the ladder. Obviously, yesterday's results, widely talked about the Warriors' good win over the Dolphins, 24-20. So many players out, doesn't matter. They still seem to be getting a couple of wins at the moment, the Warriors. That followed the Titans upsetting the Broncos in Brisbane, 36-34. How does the table look? The Sharks still on top despite their big loss at the hands of the Panthers. The Sharks on 20 points, 9 wins, 2 losses. Just behind them are the Panthers, who are 1 win behind. The Panthers tied with the Storm. Dolphins still in the top 4. Roosters, Broncos, Knights, Raiders fill out the final spots in the top 8. The Warriors still down there in 13th, but they are only 3 points off the top 8. A bit of a logjam with the Raiders, Seagulls, Bulldogs, Cowboys, Dragons currently sitting 8-12. IPL, Calcutta Knight Riders have lifted their 3rd IPL title with an 8-wicket thrashing of Sunrisers Hyderabad in a lopsided final at Chennai. Australian Mitchell Starc looking like he was the star of the show. Kiwi Amy Fisher has snatched her 2nd victory over teammate Dame Elisa Carrington in as many weeks, clipping the reigning Olympic champion over 500 metres in Poland at their World Cup event. I think it was a World Cup event. Yes, it was. Canoe Sprint World Cup that was. And as I surf through our news websites, not much more going on. So for the time being, Martin, just quickly in the NBA, halftime, Dallas Mavericks 60, Minnesota Timberwolves 52. Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals series. It's in Dallas, so if Dallas can defend home court, win these next 2 games, they will sweep the Timberwolves. So a big task ahead for Minnesota. That's what's making news, Martin.
Devlin.
Yeah, the next rule.
The platform.
Super Rugby. Kicking off on Friday night, it was Hurricanes versus Chiefs. Hell of a match in Hamilton. Controversy, as always, with rugby about the goddamn rules. The ref can only ref the way that the ref has been told to ref, but the rules are an absolute ass. Justin Marshall, 81 Test veteran of the All Blacks, joins us every Monday to discuss. Let's kick it off. Hamilton Friday night and go back to that. What an awesome crowd it was and an absolutely cracking game, Canes and Chiefs.
Yeah, it certainly was. And I feel that we've actually, during this Super Rugby Pacific season, we've actually had some really good games, high-quality games that have been those derby-type matches. And the New Zealand teams, when they seem to go at each other, tend to produce these dramatic, high-intensity, physical games. And in Hamilton on Friday night, there was no exception to the rule there, that's for sure. I totally agree with you. Real cracker of a game.
All right, okay. I've got a big moan coming in about 20 minutes about this. A couple of things. The red card for a start against Tupu. Then I want to talk about the penalty against Jacobson. What is the guy meant to do? When he was in that position to tackle the Hurricanes hooker, he's virtually in a scrum position, Justin. And so Tupu ducks down into him. The rules are an ass, aren't they? Explain to me how that's a red card.
Yeah, well, this is the ambiguity in it. This is the problem, that there is determination that there's been head-to-head contact or contact with the head. This is the way that they describe it. So what they tend to do is they tend to pin that on the tackler, and they say that it's the tackler's responsibility. And I've always taken umbrage with it, simply because you can be in the perfect condition and you can position, and you cannot control what the ball carriers do, whether they are falling, the height that they're at. When you start your position to tackle, if you're in the right position and something in a second happens that changes all that dynamic, there's no intent. There's zero intent. Your intent the whole time was to make a legal, proper tackle. And then all of a sudden, in a second, that can all change and be flipped on its head. So in those circumstances, like, I have always felt that there's a harshness in it that is unfair when you look at the various, I guess, dynamics of it. But the way that the law is being governed now is they say that it's a responsibility, like the law in the air. So the law in the air is the responsibility of the defending player to protect the other player. So whether he's in the air or whether he's carrying the ball, and if you get it wrong, you suffer the consequences, which I think a lot of times, and pretty much like at the weekend, it doesn't work out to be fair.
Jacobson makes the tackle. Two Hurricanes players jump on him. The referee says, get free. He can't get free. He's thrashing around there like a shark on a beach, mate. I mean, what's he meant to do in that circumstance?
Yeah, good
analogy
of it.
Yeah.
They do look a bit like that at times, don't they? We used to take the mickey out of rugby league players when they were basically...
You remember that guy, Michael Hancock? He was supposed to make basically bloody salmon on a riverbank, didn't he? He just kept bucking and bucking and bucking.
Didn't he? Absolutely. It was reasonably comical. Yeah, they are. The players, when you can see that they are trying to make an effort, or you can quite clearly see where they are pinned, this is where, again, what's happening to the referees is they are refereeing the game to the letter of the law. And that is coming from a directive from World Rugby. And if they don't, and there is a player in the way, then they get marked against it. But what it isn't allowing them to do, in the fairness of the law, is determine common sense. And common sense sometimes say, yep, hey, look, I'm being asked to penalise that. But I can see in this instance, A, that the player was trapped and he couldn't move, and his intent was never to be there. And I can see that he is trapped either by one of the opposition players or one of his own, and there's absolutely no intent for him to be there and he cannot move. Or B, like when you described the Michael Hancock flapping on the sand analogy, the player clearly was trying to get out of there, then he couldn't, then he was stuck. He made an effort. So what we've got to get to is allowing the referees to use that discretion.
Yes.
But World Rugby won't let them do that now. And if they don't penalise, they wear the consequences, which is, I feel, unfair on them, because at times they could probably see it for what it is.
Crusaders Blues. So where has that performance been all season? We saw it against the Chiefs and now we see it now. And when you see that from the Crusaders, you see the commitment, the drive, the desire, everything. And it's just like, well, how the hell have they had a season like they've had?
Exactly. And the resolve. The resolve of being in a position to win the game, being behind, being ahead, whatever it might be, and not giving up, and believing in your teammates and believing in that Crusaders jersey. And there was a real determination in that on Saturday night. You could see that, and they were up against a high-quality team that brought plenty to the match as well. And this is probably the question that needs to be asked, doesn't it? Because there's been a lot of fingers pointed at management. But at the end of the day, there wasn't a lot of change in game plan, and they still were at times slightly dysfunctional. I questioned some of their kicking strategy, where they were kicking the ball back to the Blues aimlessly and rolling the dice on their counter-attack. At other times, there was some passes still went over the touchline. They dropped a little bit of ball, and there was an accuracy there. But within all of that performance, was this determination, desire, resolve to stick at it regardless and to go to the well and go to the well time and time again. And that's what Crusaders do, Marty. They do that. They can have an off day. They can have a team that's playing well on the day and are playing out of their skin, but always find a way to win. And that team found a way to win at the weekend, and that's what's been missing this year. I think they've been trying bloody hard, but they just went mentally to the next level for whatever reason that might have been, but it was very evident that they got to that place.
Were they playing for Rob Penny? Can we draw that? I mean, I know it's a long bow to draw and trying to connect dots, but with what he went through during the week and that, and Cody Taylor came out in defence of him, and I'm sure the players would have been actually quite empathetic towards him and everything. What were they rallying behind him at all, do you think? Does that got anything to do with playing like that?
I don't think so. I think they have massive support for him and they believe in him as their coach. And I believe that he has created a really good environment there. The problem with the environment there is obviously it's not a winning one at the moment, but the players are feeling that as much as what the coach are. I feel there was a real aspect of history in that performance. 11 of the current players, including Cody Taylor and their senior management, were present at the Hall of Fame function on Friday afternoon, where there were 3 new inductees, Norm Maxwell, Leon McDonald, and Reuben Thorne, legends of the Crusader jersey. But those players would have heard the words that these guys spoke about, not only those players, but the players that were presenting to them as well as new inductees. And the messaging was very consistent. And that was that what Crusaders do is they play for each other and they do find a way to win somehow because they're brothers. And I feel that messaging was really strong for that team. And I know Cody Taylor spoke about it, and I'm sure that they knew that the alumni and all those players were there watching, and all they expected was not a win. They expected them to go out and do what Crusaders do, and that's just never give up. And hey, at the end of the day, if the opposition are better and get the job done, at least you can see the effort and you can see the resilience and you can see it right up until that final whistle. And maybe that's just that little tiny little bit that's been missing, because it was there Saturday night. I saw it and I was proud of it.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Indy 500. Disappointing it was for the Kiwis today. Scott McLaughlin starting on pole and Scott Dixon, both top 6 finishes. Hey, but that's not the checkered flag. That's not the prize they wanted. The ice-cold milk to pour on the head afterwards. It went again to Josef Newgarden. Congratulations to him and the Penske team. It was a brilliant race. It had all of the drama, all the excitement attached that you would expect. Was it one of the classics, though? Will it go down as one because of what Newgarden did? Curt Cavin from IndyCar.com joined us to talk. My God, Newgarden, lightning can strike twice, mate, in the same place.
Yeah, it's struck twice, and he pulled off another outstanding move to win this race. It was about as good a race as you could ever ask for. It happened pretty late in the day here. We had a four-hour rain delay, and so we basically finished this race at night almost. It was almost dark, and Newgarden wins. Took him 12 years to win the first time, and now he's won in 12 months.
Was he a deserved winner today with all the circumstances, the crashes, everything else that went on?
I think you could have been okay with about 6 drivers winning this race. Yes, he's a deserving winner. Of course, the Penskes were really strong all week, and they were really good on race day, of course. Yeah, he's a deserving champion. He's the first 2-time back-to-back winner in 20 years. And actually a little more than that, 22 years since Elio Castroneves won back-to-back in 01 and 02. So another big day for Roger Penske and Team Penske.
Talk us through the different pit stop strategies, because Dixon was on certainly a different one, and it looked as though it was going to pay off for him.
I thought it was going to be Dixon's race. Sometimes you stretch your fuel a little later, and that last pit stop like Dixon took was quicker than everybody else, so he had a chance to get out in the lead. But the draft is so important here these days, and they caught up to him, and just he drifted behind. And when you you're trailing somebody, your car acts differently than does in the lead. And so, yeah, he couldn't hold it. But a great finish toward the championship, and he pulled closer to Alex Palou in the point standings.
As far as the on-track incidents, the crashes and things, is that just standard fare? Were there any more than what you expected than last year? I mean, and how did they directly affect or not the outcome of this race?
Well, I don't know that there were any more this year. I'd have to look at the numbers. It didn't feel like it. We tend to have 3 or 4 in most races, especially with the way these guys drive. They really drive pretty crazy these days. And, the cars are so close, the teams are so close. And so the drivers are, they've got to be aggressive to make the passes. So it was probably very much like most years. The only difference, perhaps, is those crashes tended to come when guys needed to pit. And so they pitted for fuel and tires and went racing again. And it was just outstanding. We had a record number of leaders. I think there were 16 of them and some ridiculous number of on-track passes. So very entertaining Indy 500.
Curt Cavin from IndyCar.com. Scott McLaughlin on pole. Did he do anything wrong? If so, what did he do wrong?
I don't know that he did anything wrong. He was excellent on restarts, I can tell you that. He must have jumped to the lead 4 times on restarts. A couple times he jumped from 3rd to 1st on the move going into turn 1. It's just always a matter of where you are track position-wise. Are you 4th in line? Are you 2nd in line? Are you 6th in line? And it just seemed like late in the race he was too deep into the pack to make the move to the front. Nothing he really did wrong. He probably finished within 2 seconds of the victory, but it just wasn't enough on this day.
In terms of when I said lightning doesn't strike twice, and of course it does for Newgarden, and look, and absolutely, literally and figuratively, it did right at the start. So just talk us and walk us through what happened. So the storm comes across, there's a threat of lightning. We were reading here that they had to move 125,000 people. How do you do that?
Well, actually, I don't know why they wrote 125,000 because there were more than 300. We estimated 350,000 people, and that's not just me or just the media. That's what the track announced, that there were 340,000 people in the facility.
This is crazy.
And most of them were in the facility when the storm started coming. The Speedway did a good job of alerting people about an hour before the storm arrived. It never did lightning, but it rained really, really hard. The rain actually started at 12:30 local time, which is what time the race was supposed to start. So we just had a 4-hour rain delay. But there's not a lot of places for people to get out of the weather here because you're an outdoor venue with grandstands and, not much shelter. But people went to their cars and, again, by letting people know, an hour in advance, we had time to kind of take cover. And, but today most people have weather apps on their phone, so they were able to know what was coming and they were prepared for it.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
The Tight Five.
Jennifer Warnes. No, it wasn't Jennifer Warnes. You did Craig. It wasn't Jennifer bloody Warnes, mate. It was whoever it was. We'll find out. Give me the lyric, Lachlan. Find out. First we'll take Manhattan, then we'll take Berlin. 5 separate sporting...
Leonard Cohen.
There you go. Jennifer Warnes. Craig, for God's sake, mate. Jennifer. 5 separate sporting topics, 60 seconds on each, and when the bell goes, we will move on to the next topic. I want to talk about afternoon rugby, Highlanders versus Drua, 4:35, Blues Canes a couple of weeks ago. I mean, what does it take to realise that this actually works? The Warriors are definitely making the playoffs, Lachlan. 10 players absent, definitely making the playoffs now. You've got to agree with me on that. NBA today, well, we've only got a point between the Minnesota Timberwolves and Dallas at the moment. Dallas are up 97-96 with 8:20 to go in the fourth quarter. Biggest origin surprise for you? Is it Tedesco being dropped? Because that's not a surprise to me. Indy 500, 350,000 people on track. Isn't that amazing? Back-to-back titles. Jitka Klimkova. What is going on, New Zealand football? She's, suspended at the moment for what they call employment-related issues. What exactly are those? We deserve better. We deserve better, don't we, than as football fans in this country, than just to get some wet, ambiguous PR statement from New Zealand football talking about employment-related issues. Beauden Barrett not playing for the Blues. We've got a lot to talk about. Kick it off, though, with the Super Rugby. We've already talked a lot about it. I just want to mention afternoon rugby again. We had the Black Ferns playing on the weekend, 2 o'clock at North Harbour. It looked like a pretty good crowd, actually. Good on them. And then you had afternoon rugby with Moana Pacifica playing after that. You had a 2 o'clock game yesterday, Highlanders drew. We had a 4:35 game, the Blues Canes, a couple of weeks ago. Lachlan, is this the future? Are you telling me that rugby could be played in daytime? Professional rugby?
Can I actually first off go into bat for Craig here? The song First We Take Manhattan, Then We Take Berlin is a song written by Canadian singer-songwriter Leonard Cohen. It was originally recorded by American singer Jennifer Warnes on her 1986 Cohen tribute album, Famous Blue Raincoat. So, I gotta say, I'm sorry, but Craig deserves an apology here from you, Martin, because I think he's right. I think Leonard Cohen wrote it, but Jennifer Warnes certainly was the first to sing it. So you're going to apologise.
It's Leonard Cohen. Move on. Are we going to get afternoon rugby?
I'm sorry, Craig. I did my best.
Are we going to get afternoon
rugby?
rugby?
We need more of it, certainly.
Are we going to get it?
No.
Is Sky TV going to listen?
That involves Sky and or Sansa, I guess it's not really New Zealand rugby, it's Sansa, making a good decision. They just can't.
I don't get what Sky don't get. They just don't get this. All of the people that sit around Sky and make these decisions, is there no one that actually says?
It's more of an enticing prospect for attendances as opposed to TV numbers. I would think that the TV numbers would be much,
No, they keep telling us that. They keep telling us that, don't they? But what's a better look?
But think about it logically. What are people doing on a Sunday afternoon or a Saturday afternoon? They don't care. They care about their TV numbers and getting money.
They care about filling black holes is what they forget.
Yeah, but they care about the TV numbers and the money. They don't care about what the spectators like more.
There it is in a sentence, isn't it? That's Sky TV in a sentence.
But that's everyone.
But that's Sky TV since they've been in operation. They don't care about what the spectators or the fans, even their own customers think. Thank you, Lachlan. Thank you for actually pointing that out.
I don't agree with them, but at least being the devil's advocate, there's more of a chance on a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon that people are out and about doing shopping,
what is
getting groceries.
What is better for the sport? Isn't it a combination of those?
Hold up, listen. I agree with you. I'm saying that from the perspective of Sky. I can kind of understand them saying we want it late at night because that's when people are having dinner, they're at home, they're having some drinks, they're out for dinner.
They can't combine a couple of them. What is wrong with a couple of them every weekend?
This is us, two people caring about the sport trying to reason with a bunch of chimpanzees. It's not going to work.
The Wars are definitely making the 8. Say it, Lachlan.
Not definitely. I mean, they put themselves in a much better spot too, certainly. But look,
geez, I'll tell you what, you'd be just so wrapped right now that the Brisbane Broncos aren't coming to town to play the Warriors this weekend because it'd be a 40-point panter, wouldn't it? It'd be a 50-point panter is what it is, wouldn't it?
No, but all going to plan, I'll have tickets to the Warriors-Broncos game when my father comes back from the US.
A 60-point panter.
He's back from the States for a month, and I'm taking him to the game, and I'm nervous because I do not want to go to the game if the Broncos lose. So I won't be able to. I'll argue with some fans. I'll probably get beaten up because I'm a scrawny white kid in Penrose. So it's not going to end well. No, look. Fair play to the Warriors. First thing I said to you this morning when I got in, I said it at the stadium last night, I stood up and I clapped at full time, even though I wanted the Dolphins to win. The Warriors have been spectacular these last 2 weeks because they have been so down on troops and they've knocked off the 3-time defending premiers and a team who proved this weekend just gone that they are the benchmark.
Jeez, I tell you what, didn't they get bitten by the Warriors?
Oh my God.
And turned around and gave Cronulla a slap because of it.
And secondly, they've just knocked off a team who were 7-3, who were in the top 4, who'd looked damn good to start the season and still have one of the best coaches in the game in Wayne Bennett. No, seriously, good on the Warriors. Round of applause. I have nothing but good things to say about them.
Indy 500, 300 and something thousand people on track. Incredible crowd. Back-to-back titles. Amazing.
Can you call it a title if it's a single race?
I think so, because you win the Indy 500, don't you?
Yeah. Okay. Didn't win it for 12 straight years. I think Newgarden's won a few championships, hasn't he? And then wins it last year with a last lap pass. And the same thing happens this year. It's just incredible. Really unfortunate for Scott McLaughlin, who led pretty much the entire race. Then all of a sudden he was down in like 7th or 8th, and it was a bit confusing as to how he got down there and couldn't find his way back. But then all of a sudden Dixon was in the top 3. That kind of came out of nowhere. But no, a great race, great spectacle. It's and it kind of kicks things. I think this has happened in the last year or two, but things like Formula One get kicked to the curb by this kind of event. Same with the Daytona 500 when they have that on.
Beauden Barrett not going to play for the Blues, should he or not?
I don't know. I would have been happy either way, to be honest. I think Marshy makes a good point, which is what I sort of said last week, is that the Blues have a good thing going. You don't want anything to muck it up. Then again, I don't think Beauden Barrett turns up and mucks things up, does he? So I don't have a problem with it, no.
Well, I still think it's going to be weird if he's named in the All Blacks to play England by Razor and he hasn't played for 6 or 7 weeks and the team that he's training with is playing every week. Those dots just don't connect for me. I don't get it. And I presume that he will be starting at first 5.
Well, maybe not. Maybe I would think that Razor would have a lot of pull in this situation. And if he went to the tournament director of Super Rugby tournament director, who I've never heard of, and his name slips my mind, it was in this article. I think if Razor cared enough, he could have turned up and said something to this guy, and then no, it would have been allowed. So I wonder if maybe Razor's got a different idea around who his first 5's going to be. I don't know.
Rugby League, mate. Normally the Rugby League hour takes place every Monday on the show between 3 and 4. We had to flip a few things around today. Tony Kemp still joined us, though, on the back of another remarkable Warriors performance, a team that's just so stricken by injuries. I'll give you a list here. Tohu, Egan, RTS, Rocco, SJ, Cable, AFB, Ali Tuapiki, CNK, Metcalf. There's 10 names in there. Tell me what side could take 10 of their best players out of their squad and still beat the Panthers and beat the high-flying Dolphins. The Warriors did it. Here's Kempy. Was that, back-to-back, the 2 best Warriors performances ever, given the injuries, the abstentions, the pressure, everything else?
Well, I think in the context of having, 10 regular first graders out and getting, first of all, the premiers over the last 3 years in Brisbane in the Magic round, and then coming up against a top 4 side in the Dolphins, and down 16-12 at half time, you'd have to say, Marty, that it would have to go down as very memorable. So, I think there was one shot of that box yesterday, Marty, during the game where it was full of a football team of first graders from the Warriors, and here you go down on ground zero, and you've got a bunch of no-names running around doing a number against the Dolphins. So I think it does, Marty, have to go down as probably a couple of the best weeks they've had there at the club.
On that evidence, the Warriors definitely making the 8 in your mind?
Well, I think what happens, Marty, and we said this last week, the 2 points was really important with them going into the bye and puts them now 1 point behind the 8. So, you're gonna have to hope that when they do come back, the regular first graders, and there's a little bit of, I guess, methodology and around this, me saying this, do the teams play a lot better when their first graders come back up against them, or do they take a relaxed approach like Penrith did and get beaten, and like obviously the Dolphins did yesterday and get beaten? So I hope and I wish that they do make the 8, but that's yet to be seen with what they're going to do with the team once those players are fit and back on the field.
Who now then is Andrew Webster's best combination at 6 and 7, given with all the players back?
Well, if Metcalf comes back, you go with Johnson and Metcalf, don't you? But I guess when you're looking at the side and the way that they've played, the balance between Tamari Martin and even yesterday Tavita Harris was very good. He had a left foot kick and a right foot kicker out there. They weren't running over the top of each other. They led the team around really well together. And I just think you've got a wonderful opportunity here to build on your depth, having given some players in the early rounds of the competition some much needed first grade time. So what do you go with as far as your first choice? I think we all know what his first choice team is, and he'd name that with those 10 players if they're all fit tomorrow. It's unfortunate that the players that have played the last 2 weeks probably would get put back in a reserve grade, but for the club, they'd be rubbing their hands together thinking, man, we've got some depth here and we've got players that can step in and do us a job. 2 more Warriors questions. Nia Corey, what a beast of a bloke he is, isn't he? He's a huge man and such an impact. How valuable is he to this team if he's fit? He's scary. He's him on one edge and Mitch Barnett on the other. They had a big job to do against the Dolphins, who were rolling through the middle real easy in the first half and shut them down in the second. I think Newgarden, he's a starter, isn't he, when you do get your full team back. And he showed that. He'd been out for a while. I thought he actually hurt his foot again, Marty, later on in that second half. But, he got back up, picked himself off the ground and scored the try that put them out of touch. And, if he's playing in a football team, I think he's one of those blokes whose first name's on the sheet for the fear factor, really, because he scares blokes when he either runs with the ball or when he tackles them.
The AFB situation, Adam Whenua-Blake, crystal ball gazing, what is going to happen, do you think? Is he going to see the season out as a Warriors player?
Oh, I'd hope so, Marty.
Same.
I don't like it when this I don't like it when this type of thing happens, and you get the normal speech from a CEO saying, no, everything's nice and rosy, and all of a sudden it comes out that he's actually asking for compassionate grounds to head back to Australia because they've found another loophole. But I guess when you're looking at them winning, it stops him from taking the limelight and putting a bit of pressure on the club, because the club, rightly so, if he does ask for a release early, they'll save some money and know that they've got the players behind him that can actually cover them for the year. So, half a dozen, one or the other for me. I think if the player wants to go, let him go.
Finally, with the Warriors questions, Mitch Barnett deserves an Origin call-up. He has been the best, most consistent Warrior all season, yes or no?
100%. Yeah, Mitch was there or thereabouts. You got to think of the wealth of back rowers. You got Ola Kalatu, the big back rower from Manly, sitting on that bench as well. That could have made the starting side, as well as Hudson Young from Canberra, who played for the Kangaroos. And for Mitch Barnett to get in that mix in the New South Wales side, even in the number 20 jersey, we all know that during the week a number of players would probably pull out, and we wouldn't be surprised if you see Mitch Barnett on the bench come Origin kickoff. And I just think for a kid that's come over, he's 30, reminds me of Anthony Butterfield. I don't know if you remember that name, Marty, who used to play for Newcastle and played all his career before late on in his 30s he got a shot with the New South Wales Blues. And Mitch Barnett's much off the cut from the same cloth, so good on him, and great for the Warriors too to get another Origin player in there.
Tony Kemp with us, former Warriors coach, former Kiwi, played more than 20 games for us, of course, and played professional league in both hemispheres, here down under in the NRL for the Newcastle Knights. All right, a whole raft of questions about the NRL round. Are the Panthers still the team to beat? Are they the best side in the competition? Did you see that when they walloped the Sharks?
100%, Marty. On the weekend, the Warriors boys woke them up, and then Dylan Edwards went and secured himself a New South Wales jersey along with Jerome Luai, but they just bashed Cronulla into submission early and gave them nothing, didn't even let them breathe. When you're talking about putting your foot on a throat, 3 years of experience on how to win a grand final, come out with those blokes. The scary part about it, Marty, Nathan Cleary still has to come back.
On that evidence, does it tell you that Cronulla are not going to win this competition?
Well, it tells you they don't like being praised. They like to chase accolades, and I think they sat back on their morals. Losing Nico Hine at half-time to a tight calf, and I thought he copped a bit of a knee in the head there late. Wouldn't have helped anything, but there's no excuse to get beaten by 46 points when you're sitting on the top of the ladder. One thing it showed me, Marty, is that this competition is wide open, and you would just love to be in the 8 this year, because it might be that a winner actually comes from outside the 4 in 2024.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Normally with Kempi, we do this feature called Head to Head.
Head to Head.
So I'm going to dish 6 debatable topics at you, Lachlan, and you can argue pro or con, for or against any of these, and I will argue the opposite argument. First up, on that evidence, Cronulla losing 42 blank to the Panthers are not going to win the competition, yes or no?
No, I don't think so. I think that I've said this since the start of the year. I've thought at least that the Panthers are the benchmark, and they proved that over the weekend. Short-handed, you had Jerome Luai step up in a game where he needed to. Played probably the best game I've ever actually seen him play. And they proved that they're still the best team. Defensively suffocating the Sharks. The Sharks couldn't handle it. Unfortunately for them, the Panthers were bitten last week and came to play. I think even then you've still got Melbourne, you've still got the Roosters, I think, who on their day are brilliant. I think Brisbane are still in the mix to an extent. So I still think the Sharks have a fair way to go.
I always end up with the short end of the stick in these arguments, and how am I meant to argue after watching that Cronulla are going to win the competition? All I would say is that this year, the competition, and it's a cliche every year, but this year I actually do think it is more even than it's ever been. And that is evidenced by the fact that the Panthers have lost 3 games out of the 11 already this year. Plus, they are also crucially awaiting Nathan Cleary and whether or not he's going to get over this hamstring and then get a run of games together. Hamstrings are niggly little things. Look, I think that the Sharks are still capable of winning the competition, and I think they will be there at the right time because they're going to finish in one of the top 2 or 3 positions. If they finish in one of the top 2, of course, they get that easier run to the final. So I'm not writing them off yet. Jerome Luai should not have been selected by the Blues to play 6 this year.
No, I disagree. He absolutely should have been selected.
No way he should have been selected.
Just like you, I'm not the biggest Luai fan, but I think, look, the selectors are always going to be a little bit... they're going to suffer from recency bias. So when they select their team or when they finalise it, they're really going to look at the recent games. And Michael Maguire would have had right up until last night to name his team, and he would have seen Luai's performance on Saturday. And if there was any question marks, that would have hit home that he should be the 6. As well as that, who should be playing there instead of him? I like Matt Burton, but I don't think he's as good at the position as Luai. His best position is centre. Apart from that, who else is playing 6? Not Cody Walker, because he's injured as well.
When you talk about recency bias, then you would have had to watch Luai come in and out of the game and go absent without leave again against the Warriors, as well as he played a hell of a game. He did play a hell of a game against Cronulla. But this is a guy last year, remember, who absolutely botched the first 2 games of Origin. All he did was side to side, side to side, side to side. And then he sulked after the second one and put out that Instagram post basically telling all the fans to F off. This guy's not an Origin player. And I'll go back to what Ricky Stewart said. Some guys can play at the highest levels of this game and play international football, but they're not Origin players. And I don't believe that Luai is an Origin player. I'll tell you, queer topic number 3. On paper, Queensland are the much stronger side going into Origin 1.
Absolutely, without a doubt. They've sort of struggled with the strength of their team for a couple of years. Of course, 2020, I think, was the year where their team was dubbed the worst Queensland team of all time. They still won the series, and as the years have gone by, they've strengthened their team up with younger players coming up and through. Last year was the first time I looked at that team and thought, here we go, this is a team that's as good as that New South Wales team. This year it's even better, but that's in large part because New South Wales have a lot of injuries. If they didn't have all these injuries, much more even series. Queensland obviously dealing with injuries of their own, but I look at that team and without a doubt I think it's a much better side. Oh, time to spare.
You even finished before the bell. Oh, my God. How do I argue that the Blues on paper are actually a better side, especially with the injuries? Nico Hines has been named at 7. Now, we don't know whether or not he's going to... Well, we hope he's going to be fully fit. I like the fact that they've dropped Tedesco because Tedesco was awful in Origin last year. And I'm hoping that this is part of Madge's thinking. Although then again, if you go on that, you'd say that Luai shouldn't be playing because he was hopeless as well. I can't argue against this. I'm a New South Wales Origin fan when it comes to Origin. And all I can see is more misery and pain for us this week. So I'm arguing with you on that one. I can't argue that we're a better side on paper or on grass. And I agree with Tony that if the Blues don't win the first one, it's going to be 3-0 again.
Mm.
On that evidence, the Warriors are definitely making the finals.
Can I sit on the fence with this one?
Come on, go if you want. Yes.
I'll say not. I'll say yes with an asterisk, and the reason is because they've got 2. Look, what they've proven the last couple of weeks is that they can win when their backs are against the wall, and they've got a bit of heart about them that overcomes their shortcomings, if that makes sense. Like, one thing I'm critical of my Broncos, and it's been proven a couple of times, I don't know how well they can play when they're squeezed and they're put under pressure. Didn't see it much last year, haven't seen it much this year. The Warriors have that, and I think that'll take them a long way in this season.
Well, I completely botched the last argument, didn't I, over the whole Origin thing, but I'm going to win this one. Yes, the Warriors are definitely making the 8, and I'm going to go through fixture by fixture, the remaining 12.
I said they would.
I'm saying that they are absolutely, definitely, positively going. Cows away, win. Storm at home, that's a gimme. Titans away, we're not going to lose to them twice. Broncos at home, even you're scared about it. Dogs away, I'll take that. Raiders away... well, I mean, looking at them get dicked by the Roosters at home, that's probably win. Tigers at home's a gimme. Eels at home's a gimme. Dolphins away, we just beaten them. Manly away, they'll be shot by them. Dogs at home, Sharks away. The Warriors are going 12-0 to close at Lachlan, which basically means top 4 again, which means that we're going to get the rub of the green and the right side of the draw because you can't win it unless you are in the top 4.
I'm
Flawless argument.
not going to dignify any of that with a response.
Flawless argument.
No.
Pro or against? Monty Beetham joining us in a couple of minutes. Adam Fanua-Blake will see the season out for the Warriors.
Oh, jeez. I want to say no. I'm going to say yes. And the only reason I'm going to say yes is I think there's a fair few hoops to jump through for the Warriors to let him go and willingly let him go. Look, he's under contract. People can sit there and say he's throwing his toys out of the cot, he doesn't want to play, he's doing this and that and whatnot. And if Andrew Webster might sit there and say, I don't want this guy on my team because he doesn't want to be with us anymore, that's all speculation, as we know. But I think it'd take a lot for the Warriors to let him go. It's up to them if they actually do it. I don't think they will. I think they'll tell him, you've got to see out your contract, and he'll find his way to Cronulla next year. I don't think it's going to happen early.
I'm going to make this next bit loud and clear. I want him to stay. I love him as a player. He's a beast of a player. He was our best player last year, and him not being in the team, we are not as good a team without him. However, I'm just looking at past track records. When he left Manly, the stories all surfaced about his partner or his wife wanted to get him out of the people he was hanging around with or something to come to Manly. The way he chopped and changed his mind last year over he was leaving, and then 24 hours later he did a backflip, and then he committed to the club for the year. And then all of this stuff emerges. When I add all of that up together, I just don't have confidence in the fact that he's going to be here for the whole year. I goddamn wish that he would be. But there's just something about when you add all of those pieces of the jigsaw together that just makes me feel a bit, yeah, I really don't know. Final. On that evidence, South will win a few games this season, and the Tigers are going to win their third wooden spoon, if you win a wooden spoon, in a row.
Yep, thoroughly agree. On both, actually. I think the Tigers, just quickly with them, I thought this pre-season that they, as much as they've got some good players, I don't think they've got the coach at all. It's nothing against Benji Marshall. It's purely because he's unproven. He's actually never had a head coaching gig outside of the Tigers at all. So I had no confidence in them being able to actually avoid that. For the Rabbitohs, look, they've got a lot of talent. They'll have a lot of their players back from injuries. Latrell Mitchell's back. Good win over the Eels, who are in an absolute disarray at the moment. I think the Rabbitohs certainly have some more wins in them.
How many wins do you need to avoid the wooden spoon? Probably about 5. The Tigers are on 2 at the moment, right? So they're going to have to win another 3 games. Here we go. Dragons away. Oh, that's a win. No question about that. Titans at home, they can beat that team. Raiders at home, they're on a roll. They've already won 2. There's 3 in a row. That's 5 wins. Therefore, I win the argument straight away. Next 3 games. Then they're away the Roosters. Then they play the Storm. Then they play the Sharks. God, they just got beaten by the Rabbits, and then they play the Warriors. So the next 3 games are going. No, they got the wooden spoon. They got the wooden spoon. They've lost 8 in a row. They were 2-1. Remember that amazing stat under Benji Marshall that for the first time in about 6 seasons they actually had more wins than losses.
Yeah,
and that was 2 wins and 1 loss.
And they'd beaten Parramatta. Who did they beat in round 2? Cronulla. Dicked them by 26
That's right.
points.
They bloody did too. Wembley. FA Cup final Sunday morning. My Man United beat Man City. Played bloody well, actually, but the big question for United fans is where the hell was that performance for the rest of the season? The hustle, the bustle, the desire, the will, the chasing back, the tackling, the wanting to win the game. And then in the wee small hours of this morning, the single richest game in world sport, £170 million up for grabs. Southampton playing Leeds for the final promotional place back into the Premier League. Remember, last year's 3 promoted sides all went straight back down, relegated. 2 of the relegated sides, that's Leicester, and now Southampton is straight back to join them. Andy Buckley, all over that for us, BBC and TalkSport commentator.
The stakes are so high, the promised land, the Premier League is the glittering prize for Southampton or Leeds, and it was Southampton who nudged it. But having said that, both of them have just fallen out of the Premier League 12 months ago. So, it's not as though it's for like an Ipswich Town or a Luton Town who've made it into the big time. They're used to it. They know what it's like. And also they know what they've missed in terms of the glamour of getting there. I think Leeds will be bitterly disappointed that they didn't make it, because they were a lot of people's fancy to get through, and Southampton surprised them. Southampton certainly had the desire, the appetite to win, and Leeds, I think, were slightly complacent and thought perhaps that the victory would be theirs, but it wasn't to be. But yeah, you're right. It's a massive game, and also I suppose just to sort of put it into context for Leeds now. You've got to be careful, because if you don't get back at the first attempt, then you can fall into the wilderness, as they've known over many years. Other clubs as well who used to be in the big league, Coventry, Sheffield Wednesday, fallen by the wayside over the last 2 or 3 decades and found it so tough to get back. So yeah, all important, and welcome back Southampton.
Yeah, it's it's as you say, it's one of those things. You get the parachute money, don't you? And it can last 1 or 2 years. We've saw obviously this year the 3 promoted sides straight up, straight back down again. And whether or not that happens, well, it remains to be seen. But it's just such a prize. It's to me, it's the ultimate thing in sport. It's such a winner take all, isn't it? There's just zero for the loser and absolutely everything for who wins.
Yeah, and there's a long slog ahead as well for the loser because it's a 46-game marathon in the Championship. So although it's 38 games in the Premier League and 38 glamorous games as well, you're playing the game up against the best players in the world. But if you're in the Championship, it's tough. It's very tough. And Leeds have got to come good again and think, right, okay, we can do it next year rather than this year. Big club, massive club. But unable to get over the finishing line, and Southampton, who've been at the top for division for a long time as well. A lot of people surprised to see them fall out of the top division, but they're back. Yeah, and it is the winner takes all, and a prize that Southampton have richly been rewarded with, really, with going up via the playoffs.
So 2 of the teams that got relegated last year bounced straight back. That is Leicester and Southampton, and Ipswich, of course, after a 20-something year wait. All right, 24 hours previously at Wembley. Man United doing what even myself, many Man United fans wouldn't have thought was possible, was to play that well against Manchester City. And the question is, and I think, to be fair, Andy, I know that you're a lifelong City fan. I thought it was a deserved win the way the team played it. And, the big question that I think a lot of us have got at the end of it was, where the hell is this during the rest of the season? And I'm talking about just the most basic things of, it's not skill, it's desire, it's commitment, it's willing to run, to make a tackle, to chase back, to actually occupy space, to harass, to hustle. And, that's all desire is what that is. Where has that been for the rest of the season?
Exactly. Congratulations.
Thank you.
On getting the FA Cup victory. Yeah, richly deserved as well. And I think even the most ardent blue has to say, well, hang on a minute, we didn't turn up, we didn't play. Manchester United deserved winners on the day. And as you say, they fought for every ball. Tactically as well, the master tactician, Pep Guardiola, was outwitted by Ten Hag, who struggled all season. It's been a season of chaos for Manchester United, and yet they came good when it mattered. And a lot of United friends of mine just couldn't believe it. They were absolutely staggered, probably like yourself as well, to think, well, hang on a minute, where's that come from? Where's that been missing this season that United have endured? And the noose is still round Ten Hag's neck. Will he get the push? Has he done enough to save his job? The vultures are circling, and people are saying, well, hang on a minute, surely you can't sack him after winning the FA Cup. He's won trophies in 2 seasons now, but people will look on the dark, dim days of the way that they've been obliterated by some very ordinary teams in recent weeks as well. And yet, when it mattered, tactically, brilliant performance by United, rode the luck a little bit, but Manchester City defensively were abysmal. And the big news out of Manchester tonight is that Pep Guardiola is going to go in 12 months' time. This is going to be his last season coming up, 2024-25 season. His days are numbered. People suspected that once his contract was over, that would be it. He'd be on his way. City were trying to dangle the carrot of another contract. But it's to be confirmed by the club. But the word is in England that that's it, another season of Guardiola, and then he's gone.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.